Hey folks, this is Kelani. Welcome to Antorus the Burning Throne. So this is the next raid tier, which we'll hopefully get to run around sometime soon. If the 77 days thing kind of stays as it should and as we expect, then this should be sometime in November. Early November, I think the second week. So obviously we get here via Argus and the Antoran Wastes, and this is where we will first arrive when you enter Antorus. So this is on PTR right now, which means that everything is obviously subject to change. However, everything looks kind of finished. It seems to be in more of a finished state rather than a, hey, this is what we're working with, give us some feedback sort of state. So I don't expect too much will change. So the first thing that we've got is basically a nice ramp full of trash, which leads down to the first boss quite quickly. So the map is kind of all there, it would seem. So we start up here, and then we work our way down to the Garrosh Worldbreaker, which is indeed our first boss. Sadly, I can't actually get down there without dying repeatedly, and, you know, it kind of doesn't really work because there's only set respawn points, but what we can do is kind of skip over all of that and see where it leads to. So now we're down here, which leads to the second boss, which is the Fel Hounds of Sargeras, and you can see there's battles going on pretty much everywhere in the background. Now, I don't think we can actually get down there or over there, and I think that in the background is just a background, but you can see it kind of continues the whole green fell theme quite nicely, I guess, even though we're probably getting a little tired of it. Sadly, this is a raid full of fell green, so, you know, hopefully we'll get a break after Antorus. But if we go down here, careful not to get into combat, this is the Broken Cliffs, and I think this comes into play a little later in that we'll get picked up by the Vindicar sometime after we've cleared the first few bosses, because this is where you go into everything else after you can't go any further with the doors and teleporters that we have access to with the first few bosses. So that's what I'm assuming. So down this way we have the second boss. I'm actually a little worried about how much trash I can skip being on my own. I think most of this trash might not have to be killed when the raid comes out, which is kind of good and kind of weird, but never mind. We have the Fel Hounds of Sargeras, Shatug and Fjorg, I would assume, and this just looks to be kind of their little playpen, which is a little worrisome, really. There's bones and bodies everywhere, and it seems to be their little cavern where anything and anyone that the Legion just want to leave here to die, you know, that's kind of their fate. But let's move on and see what else we have in store. So from here, you actually need to take a few teleporters to get to any other bosses, and those teleporters are that way for the third boss in the journal, which is Antoran High Command. Now, there's this little section here, which seems to be a broken bridge, and you can see that's one section, and then far over there's another section. So I'm on the other side of the bridge. Not sure how this is going to activate or how we get here, but you can see that when we do get here, there's a whole bunch more trash leading down the pathway to the third boss, we are assuming. It's all the way down there. Once again, can't really get down there, but you can see shouldn't be too far before you find a portal, most likely, which will take you into the Gaze of the Legion, which is the Antoran High Command boss room. You can see we've got Admiral Srivax over there, and I think this is more of a council fight, right? So I'm sure the other ones will pop up here and there. But this room kind of reminds me of Star Augur Atreus, in that we've got a few worlds floating around. I'm not sure what that one is, but that looks really cool. And then maybe Argus, maybe, no, that looks like Azeroth potentially. Yeah, there's the Maelstrom. So we've got Azeroth in the middle, and then this is maybe our star system. So that's really cool. A very pretty room. Although I do get a little worried when we're locked into a specific room for boss encounters, because that can create camera issues, but I think this one's big enough to kind of not have that problem. But it definitely looks very, very cool. Now, after you've dealt with the Antoran High Command, you'll come back to where we started, but there's another path which leads to the Halls of Boundless Reach. Now, to get up there, we just take this little ramp, and then there's actually a portal after another small pack of trash. So on the other side of that portal, we have the Halls of Boundless Reach, which leads to Portal Keeper Hasabel. Now, you can see the trash here blocks a lot of the way, and it all does seem to be portal related. So I'll skip over this trash. After hopping over the trash, you can see that we've got to pretty much the boss, and this is Portal Keeper Hasabel, which this looks like an incredible room. This is really cool. And it's all to do with portals, if you didn't guess by her name. So you can see the green portal at the back, there's a purple portal and a red portal, and what those portals will do is just take you up to these little areas which, you know, you have to do something relating to the fight, and if nobody is down here, then she pretty much just kills everybody. So that's going to be a fun juggling act, and I wonder how that's going to really play out altogether. So I'm excited for that fight, and once again, a really cool room, especially when you look up. But let's move on. So the other side of this is to head through this way, and on the other side of that portal we have Elunaria, which is a nice break from the Fel Green. We're no longer on Argus, I don't think. We're no longer near Antorus. I think this is probably a different world, or maybe some very secluded part of Argus. But either way, it's very nice indeed. Reminds me a lot of the Titan places that have been hidden for quite a while. Sholazar Basin, you know, that kind of thing, mixed with maybe a little bit of that new world invasion, actually. Lots of cliffs with seemingly nowhere to go. So we have a lot of Daughters of Eonar here, actually, which is quite interesting. Some wildlife flying around, a clear sky with some planets that we might not know of, I guess, but then we head through this way, and obviously this just reeks of Titan constructs, looks exactly like Ulduar or the Halls of Lightning, so once again Titans. Very cool though. And then we pop through here, and this is actually the entire boss arena. I guess you can't really call it anything else, but the fight will basically take part everywhere here, and you even get a special ability which lets you fly around and jump to where you want to go. So this is to do with the essence of Eonar, and supposedly Sargeras has now come for her essence and her power. So this is kind of like tower defense, from what I understand it, in that you've got a lot of different pathways. I think there's 3 pathways total, and demons will just constantly spawn down them and essentially try and make their way to Eonar. So you have to kill the demons in all 3 paths to make sure that she stays safe. Obviously there's going to be a little bit more than that, and I'm assuming you'll have to be on top of pretty much every path almost all the time, otherwise you're probably going to fail. I think this is going to be one of those boss fights which is going to be really fun, fantastic and brilliant the first few times you do it, and then might get a little frustrating or a little stale or a little boring. It depends on how it's tuned, I guess, because if you think that everything's going to be tuned and timed dependent on the gear that we're going in here with, so if it gets to the point where we just outgear everything incredibly, we're probably going to be spending half our time waiting for something to spawn. But either way, a very cool boss area for hopefully a cool boss encounter. Definitely a nice break from that Fel Green that we're seeing everywhere else. Now, at this point, we don't actually have a clear pathway, so this is where that Broken Cliffs, I think it was called, comes into play, and I think we get picked up by the Vindicar and taken onto the Legion ship itself, because the next place is the Exhaust. And this is the Exhaust. So it's just a huge long line which seems to lead into the ship itself, into Antorus, and basically we're going in the back door like we always seem to do. But see that the only way to seemingly get here and get back is with a light forged beacon, and we didn't see any of those. The Vindicar is in the background, so we're assuming that the Vindicar picks us up, because this beacon actually takes us back to the Broken Cliffs. So the beacon picks us up, or just throws down a beacon at the Broken Cliffs, and then we get to the Exhaust, which is our way into the actual raid, I guess. Everything leading up to this is maybe as just breaking in, but either way, welcome back to the Fel Green. But it does look pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with this, but we've got a ship coming our way through the blast doors of this Antorus Legion ship. And that's actually the boss. That's actually the next boss, because we don't get to go through there until you take care of Imanar the Soul Hunter. And I think that's a really cool way to introduce a boss. I don't think we've had anything quite like that before, especially when he ends up behind us. So this next one's a little frustrating because you teleport right on top of some trash mobs, so we can't really get a good look around here. I'll try die in a nice spot. But you can see that this is the next boss area for Garrosh, and it seems to be he's the maniacal mind behind pretty much every Legion weapon that we get frustrated with having to deal with. But he looks pretty cool. Maybe didn't die in a fantastic place to get a good look at his model, but you can see back down that hallway is where we would eventually come from. It seems like we get cut off here and we teleport all the way over to here. So all along here, I can't really show you, which is a bit disappointing, but I'm assuming it's going to be more of this fell green metal ship type area. And then after you've dealt with King Garrosh, once again I'm assuming the Vindicar kind of does this for you because there's a Lightforged beacon there. Maybe we go back to the Lightforged beacon and we get teleported up to the Burning Throne, which is giving me some serious Halls of Valor vibes. Very cool with the pillars on either side leading up to, honestly, which looks almost like a copy of Halls of Valor. So very cool, but we've changed the fell green theme for a very dark red theme, which is very cool. Very nice change. And then this pathway leads all the way down into the Temple of Anguish. So I'll meet you down here right after this big red gate. So we're on the other side of that big red gate, and honestly it really feels like we're inside a spaceship. Nothing like what the invasions have given us from the Legion ships. Like, this feels like we're in something maybe from Stargate or Star Trek or some crazy sci-fi. You know, we've really gone off the deep end with fantasy. We're way past fantasy, we're definitely into sci-fi, but that red theme has been continued through, and we are now in the Temple of Anguish. So this is where the Coven of Sargeras is, as well as Varimathras, but he's down below in the Chamber of Anguish. The interesting part is that it seems to be you get a little bit of a choice. So let's just hop around this trash pack. Once again, a little concerned about how much trash we can actually skip, or how much I've been able to skip, and we have the Coven of Sargeras down here, so you can take the stairs down and deal with that, and then that door down there leads down to Varimathras, or you can actually jump down here. So we can jump down here, down into the Chamber of Anguish, which is a torture chamber, and definitely looks like it. There's some not so nice things lying around in this room, and he's not looking too great himself. But they haven't managed to kill him, so, you know, we're going to have to take care of that, sadly, but hopefully he'll drop some nice loots for us. But yeah, definitely not a room I'd want to spend a lot of time in. And then, as I said, we can work our way back up to the Coven of Sargeras. And we have their boss room, and I'm assuming it's going to encompass pretty much everything we see here. Those really cool Titan heads, which we haven't really seen anywhere except Titan areas and Titan construct areas, but then again Sargeras was a Titan, or is a Titan, and we're guessing that he built this place, so maybe that's the reason why. But you can see those little sparkly celestial things, they're called Doodad Argus Raid Titan Trapped Soul. So we got some trapped Titan souls in here, and if I go engage the bosses, you'll actually see one of them run over and start channeling one. But let's not do that yet, and let's have a little snoop around. Definitely some very cool areas in Antorus. Alright, let's go ahead and give the boss a poke. And you can see one of them runs straight over to one of the trapped Titan souls and starts channeling it. The rest of this area seems to be pretty much the same, with the same kind of trash mobs and the same kind of textures and doodads going around. And we move forward into the World Soul area. You work your way through here. Once again, some huge Halls of Valor vibes. I think we're just on the other side of where we were when we got the beacon, so that's kind of cool. And then we run all the way down here to Agrimar, which this platform gives me some serious Algalon vibes, in that that bridge is going to get cut off and we'll be left stranded on this platform. And then there's this huge celestial being back here, which we're assuming is the Argus World Soul, seeing as the area we're in is called the World Soul, so I guess we fight him next. But sadly, this is actually all I can show you, because we can't go up to the Seat of the Pantheon just yet. There isn't a teleport for that on the PTR, so we can show you the map, and that's the Seat of the Pantheon, with Argus the Unmaker as the last boss. I do believe this is the encounter area, and then this is kind of a huge, almost throne thing going all the way around with the different titans sat watching the fight, which is a little weird, but sure. I mean, we'll play in a little Colosseum again, but you can see Very cool areas in Antorus. We move from Fel Green into that nature-based one for Eonar, and then to a very dark red theme, and that seems to continue all the way through. I'm not too sure what the Seat of the Pantheon is going to look like in-game and when it's finished, but I'm sure that's incredibly pretty and looks very Titan construct-like. But we can see up in the sky, that's Azeroth, I would assume, and then this huge dust cloud is potentially Sargeras descending on Azeroth, so we'll have to see how this all pans out, because I'm not going to go down that road with too many spoilers. If you have any questions or queries, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, or hop on over to Discord. We have a server at discord.gg/Kelani, great place to come ask questions or just hang out. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.